For keyword grouping, so after we got this big list, we're starting to get the competition scores, we're starting to get the volume scores. Uh, um, we need to start thinking about grouping the keywords. And the idea here is we want to group similar keywords together with the idea or the intent that we could have a web page or a blog post written for this specific query. So again, if it's sort of a high end, like what should I buy flannel sheets in Houston? No. Should I buy flannel sheets in Houston? We would want a blog post. Like, what are the benefits of flannel sheets? How do you judge the quality of flannel sheets? All of that would go into a blog post. But if it was best price on flannel sheets, or what, I don't remember the query that was the buyer intent focused, but where can I buy flannel sheets? That would take you to a product page. But you're just grouping these keywords with the intent of having a page for each group of keywords. So when you think about how many keywords to group together at a time, really it's up to you, but we're sort of in the 5 to 20 range. Any more than that, you're maybe getting too many keywords to fit into your post. Any less than that, and you're maybe not being specific enough. But there needs to be some common denominator amongst the keyword groups.
So let's go a little bit deeper in how to group. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create high-level keyword groups. These groups have to be created around your main products or services. So for example, if you're going to sell Japanese food, your high-level groups could be, ordering ramen online, sushi delivery, Japanese food delivery, and then so you're going to start to break down into these groups. Now, after that, once you've broken in that first division, then you can go into each group and maybe divide it further. So you want to divide those high-level groups into shorter clusters. For example, in our sushi delivery group, we might see clusters of eel sushi, California roll. I don't know what sushi you like, but
I mean, yeah, anything.
Anything, right? And then we'll be able to make smaller groups and work through these subgroups until they're targeted and small. And like we said, you want them to be narrow, closely related to each other, about 5 to 20 keywords, and that will start to formulate the backbone of the content and the articles that we're going to write.
The only rule I know about sushi is you don't go to sushi happy hour. Just saying. Okay. So, and then, work through subgroups until they're targeted and small. So I think narrow, closely related keywords with the idea of, can I create a page for this?
So let's just bring some examples of keyword grouping. So this example is a screenshot from SEMrush or SEMrush, different ways. But with their keyword magic tool, I typed in the word Thai, and in there I clicked on food. And then under food, you can see there's many groups. There's best food, near food delivery, street. In this case, I clicked on the word recipe. And in recipe, you can see I've got a whole bunch of keywords that are related to Thai, food, and recipe. And this would be like one of my minimal, smallest groups. And now when I'm writing an article, I want to make sure that I'm talking about easy recipes. I might want to mention vegan recipes and chicken curry. But this is sort of the general concept, just another way of looking of how you're going to group these keyword phrases together.
So you can even start thinking about it. Here's 10 easy Thai food recipes to make on a weeknight, right? And really killer blog post you could write there. And then you could branch off and do 5 easy vegetarian Thai recipes and so forth.
Here's another example where just a kind of a different visual perspective. But let's say we're trying to rank for a master's in marketing program in Houston, and I did research, and I can see that I've got other keywords: master's in marketing program salary, master's in marketing program jobs, and master's in marketing program global rankings. We can see that the common denominator of all these keywords is master's in marketing program, and we are going to cluster them all together into one article, one post. All right, so now we're showing you a visual of actually putting these keywords together. Here's a screenshot of a spreadsheet, which we suggest is the best way to group keywords together. And you can see here that I've got 3 groups: custom business sign, custom card decals, and advertising signs. And if I see in the keyword column, I see the different keywords that are related. You can see the common denominator that's connected. We have our monthly searches, which we got from one of our keyword tools, and lets us know how many people are searching for this per month. And remember, it's not exact or perfect, but it gives you a good idea. And then we have the competition metric. here we're saying Moz toolbar, but once again, this difficulty metric, and we'll show you in a couple slides, can be from Ubersuggest, it could be from SEMrush, from Moz, whatever you need. And then the last column is really just a visual cue to help us visually see what's difficult and what's easy. You can see that the keyword that has the 18% difficulty, I'm marking it with a 1 and applying a green background to let me know visually that's going to be the easiest keyword to rank for in that group, and then so on and so forth, 2 and 3.
When it comes down to prioritizing, this is essentially the color coding Danny just went through. But easy, again, keyword difficulty or how hard is it to rank goes from a 1 to 100 scale. So we consider 120 to be easier keywords, 21 to 40 to be lighter but still easy keywords. Medium is 41 to 60, hard 61 to 80, and extremely hard or deadly is 81 to 100. When it comes to prioritizing, we're looking at difficulty first, search volume second. Search volume is from these tools that we get from these tools is reported on a monthly basis. So it's monthly searches for the exact match of that key phrase.
And your question might be, hey, Danny and Bill, why are you prioritizing keywords within the group? And the answer is because when we write one piece of content, we're going to have to focus on some keywords more and other keywords less. We can't put every single keyword in the title of the article. So which keyword do we put in the title? So now we're going to look at how do we kind of determine, how do we prioritize which keywords should we focus on the most, and then which keywords should we focus on the least. So before we get into that, here's just a shot of the SEO difficulty score that Ubersuggest provides. So we can see here oil and gas marketing gives you a 15, which is relatively easy. And then you can see like digital marketing, the second to last keyword has a 49, which will be more difficult. We want to focus on the SEO difficulty score because that's what we're dealing with here. How difficult or easy is it to rank organically? We do not want to look at the paid difficulty score because that's more about how difficult or how competitive is the keyword if you're going to run an ad on that. So don't focus on that, just look at the SEO difficulty score.
Okay. So in terms of prioritizing, we'll just pull one of these keyword groups, and why don't you take a look at this and tell us, or write it down, because you're not actually going to tell us at this point, what you think the ranking of these keywords should be. So prioritize the keywords from 1 to 6, with 1 being your top highest priority keyword and 6 being your least priority keyword. So take a minute, do that. Danny and I will wait here patiently for you to do your work.
And just remember, you're going to be looking at the monthly searches and the competition, and you're going to try to figure out, based off of those 2 data points, which keyword do we want to rank as being our priority keyword.
Pause the video, take as long as you need, and when you got all 6 of them ranked, hit play. And you're back. So how did you do? So we've got, for us, we looked at custom decals for cars is our #1 priority. And you might say to yourself, well, it's not the lowest competition. Danny, didn't we just tell them that, it's competition over search volume? And we did, but you've got to use your head a little too. So the 29% versus 26%, yes, that's a difference, but there's only 10 searches with the 26%. So we kind of ignore that because that's not really that much of a priority for us to go after just 10 searches. The 1,600 searches is very nice. It's our second most searches based on these keywords, but it's by far the one with the most search volume and the lowest difficulty. So we went there, #1. And if you look at #4, I'm sorry, not #4, but custom car decals, 8,100 searches at 61%. Well, that's just too hard for us to rank for. So we're thinking at this point, like, let's put that last. So we looked in and we have 1,600 searches, monthly searches for custom car window decals. That's got a 36% difficulty, so that's our second. Very close is the third ranked keyword, custom vinyl car decals, with 34% competition. Now look at the difference between those two. Number two, the second priority and the third priority. Right, we're looking at 36% versus 34%. But again, 260 searches versus 1,600 searches. So it's sort of a judgment call here, right? Like, is it worth going those 2 extra points for what is that, 8 times the searches? Yeah, we think that the 2 points on the difficulty score are worth it.
And that's why when you're doing this sort of keyword prioritization, there is some science to it, but there is some art as well, right? You know, my list might not look exactly like your list, but in the end of the day, as long as you're using some logic here and you're thinking about what you're doing, you know, you'll end up with the correct answer. Now that we've covered everything when it comes to grouping keywords, putting them into groups, looking at their search volume, their difficulty, and prioritizing them, there's one last piece that we need to add, the last piece of the pie, or that last ingredient. And this is going to be contextual keywords. Contextual keywords are those additional keywords or topics that's going to fill the gaps in for the visitor's knowledge. Because Google is looking for content signals that a page will fulfill all of the searcher's needs. When someone is searching for something, you know, they have one question, and often when they go to the page, they'll have more questions. And the question is that page, is that piece of content going to be comprehensive enough? Is it going to include everything that that person knows what they want, or even what they don't know what they want or need? So let's take this example from like Wikipedia. Imagine if someone is writing an article about New York. Ideally, an article about New York should contain information about New York City, Brooklyn, Long Island. An example that I like to give is if you're writing about traveling to New York, you're going to write about the Empire State Building, about the Statue of Liberty. But what happens if you wrote an article and you left out New York City, Brooklyn, or if you're writing about traveling, you're leaving out the Empire State Building? Is that going to be a comprehensive article? Definitely not. You're missing out key components. And what this is trying to tell us is that with every topic, with every group of keywords that you're writing about, there's certain things, in order to make it comprehensive, certain topics, keywords that you have to include. Right? So a page about New York that doesn't mention Brooklyn, Long Island may not be very comprehensive. And thereby, Google knows, you're wondering, how does Google know? But Google knows everything about New York. And if your article doesn't talk about everything, maybe Google might not want to show it on the first page. Okay, so how do we figure out contextual keywords or additional keywords that we need to throw into our keyword groups? So there's other tools and things that can do it, but a free option is IBM has a natural language understanding called Watson and tool. And this is a free demo that you guys can access. You can get there by going to bit.ly. You can see the link right there. And in that case, you can type in a keyword or you can type in a website. And in this example, we're looking for masters in marketing. And I want to find the #1 result, which thankfully is Bauer, because we know that's the best masters in marketing program. But I want to know, how did Bauer end up being the #1 result? So I stick that URL into IBM's tool. And it generates a list of keywords like I can see on the right of the page, where it shows me the keyword, the sentiment, which for our purposes don't really make much of a difference. But then there's a relevance score. And the relevance score is showing how significantly related is this keyword to the article. So we can see that 96%, this article is really about Bauer MBA student. And if I go to the bottom of the list, I can see 82%, it talks about leading research university, but not as much. But either way, what does this list tell me? That if I want to rank for Masters in Marketing program on Google, I better have an article that talks about social media marketing, customer relationship management, a good business community, right? These are all phrases or topics that this article is really about. And if I want to rank, I might as well and make sure that I add those topics or phrases as well. So here's a screenshot going back to our keyword list. Some of the columns are missing, but it's just to give you a general idea. Here I have a group name called VMS system, and I prioritize my keywords. At the bottom of my group, I'm going to add in contextual keywords, topics or phrases that when I write my article, when I write my piece of content, I'm going to make sure that I add those points in. So in this case, when I write about VMS systems, I'm going to talk about contingent labor spend, cost savings, and contingent workforce. And that will round out my group and my content so that it's very comprehensive, and it becomes something that Google will want to rank.
Right. And so at this point, we're not concerned about difficulty. We're not concerned about volume for these contextual keywords. They're not words we're trying to rank for. Again, as Danny's mentioned, it's just a signal to Google that by including these words on our content, that this is a comprehensive post. It covers all of the important things that we need to cover, and people will be able to come to our page and get the majority of the information they need.
So now when you throw it all together, you can see back to our second example that we had before, I've got my primary keyword that I'm focusing on. And the reason I chose that is because the combination of search volume and competition is very good. And then I've got my other keywords in the group, Masters in Marketing Program Salary and Rankings. And then within the brackets, I have my contextual keywords, social media marketing, well-respected career specialists, and customer relationship management. And one thing I just want to add in, which we may not have mentioned before, but what happens if you have 2 groups or 5 groups? How do you know which group to work on first? So just like we have prioritization of the keywords within the group, we also have prioritization between groups itself. So groups that contain, keywords that are easier to rank for, I might want to start with those groups before I go with groups that have keywords that are harder to rank for. So you're going to be using your prioritization and your different metrics, not just to prioritize keywords within the group, but also to help you choose one group over the other. Okay, so now that we have our primary keyword, our secondary keywords or variants, and the contextual keywords, what do you do with them? So you can see the primary keyword is something that I'm going to want to put in the title of the page, both the meta title, which is the unseen title, but also the main title, which is often an H1 tag. You want it to be in the URL, the heading, the meta description, and obviously the content itself. Now you're going to look at your secondary keywords or your variants. If you can put those in the meta description, that'd be great. Definitely include those in the subheadings. You want to have those in the image tags and the content itself. And then finally, your contextual keywords, you will really want to have those as subheadings and content and also images. So this kind of gives you an idea. Now that you have all your keywords, now you got to place them within your content in different places. The primary keyword is going to be more important. Secondary keyword and contextual are going to be less, but they all need to be there, some way, somehow.
This really foreshadows our next section of the class, which is what do you do? How do you design your search, your page to be SEO friendly? And it's using these keywords as we've listed out here. And we'll go through and give you some more of the specifics, like how long should your title be, etc.
So just a visual perspective here of what we were just speaking about. You can see that we've got our Masters in Marketing program, the primary keyword. We've got it in our title. You can see we've mentioned Masters in Marketing within our image tag in the bottom left corner. We'll talk more about that. And then within the framework of the article that we're writing, these are heading tags. Just think of it as like an outline. You can see that I've got my primary keyword in the heading, which is the H1. Then I've got my variants or secondary keywords within the subheadings, which are the H2s. And then I'm going to have subheadings, which are H3s. And there I've kind of sprinkled in my contextual keywords and maybe mentioned some of my variances as well.
So now that you have these keywords, you need to think about how are you going to utilize these keywords? What are you going to write? Are you going to write an article? Are you going to do a product page? What's the angle you're going to take?
So we're not going to go into super depth right now, but this is just a light form of ideas to think about when you're writing content.
So what are the costs associated with it? Like what does an MBA program cost, right? Problems. What types of problems would an MBA solve, right? Or versus, should I go for an MBA or an MS? Reviews. What are the 5? Well, I was going to say what are the 5 best, but number 5 is best. So Danny, you take reviews.
Yeah, so reviews. I just got a new washing machine, but yeah, like what do people say about this washing machine? And then best would be what's the best washing machine or best MBA program. But these are all, often, especially in the B2B world, people like, what do I write about? But, with these types of, ideas, it can give you, suggestions on when you have your keyword group. What do I, sometimes it's very easy. I know what I'm going to write about. Other times, like, what do I write about? If you focus on cost, problems, or use best, you'll often come up with an idea of what you can do.